some of these things will benefit you in terms of that you're able to do it. Some things you may not. Our coaching staff at Valparaiso, it afforded us to be able to do things because we have a little bit of a larger staff. But I think with 2 people, you could really hone in on kind of, the gist of everything that we're doing and all the essential things that you would kind of take away from this. So first, I would say is that, and this kind of is just one of the mottos, I guess, I think in life in general, but KYP, know your personnel, know everybody around you. Obviously in a workplace setting, obviously you talk to your bosses differently than you would some colleagues. And then amongst colleagues, you talk to colleagues differently than others because everybody's different. And you treat everybody, with the same core of ethics. But at the end of the day, you recognize everybody's unique talents and everybody's unique strengths. And you kind of emphasize that and you try to get the most out of that. So the same thing happens with your roster. I know that our roster for flag football, we did not have a athlete quarterback that could really, just like pick apart, and pick apart a defense through the air. We didn't have that. He had, he had a good arm talent, but we found ourselves running the ball more than not. And it's a very effective strategy if it's done correctly. But that may not be the case for your team. You may have a quarterback that's an athlete that, can really do well in a setting where they throw the ball the majority of the game. And that could work too. I know that we've seen it in teams that we've played where they throw the ball like all game. And we've seen teams that run the ball all game. But I'll be able to kind of touch on both. So first thing is kind of knowing your personnel. So one of the activities that we did in the beginning of the season is we essentially split up offense and defense. So half the team went to Coach Prokop, half the team went to me, and then we did different kind of drills. So one of the drills that we did was just simple, myself throwing the ball just so it can be consistent, in terms of like if you have another kid throw it, they may not throw it as far, yada, yada, and just kind of having them run two different routes, a go route or a 9 route, however you call it, where you just go straight down the field, a streak, and then throwing the ball to them. And as a coach, a couple of things you're looking for is, for do they have some speed to them? Can they get downfield in time? Because you're in unified flag football, you're going to have a rusher and your quarterback is going to have to make a decision rather quickly. So if they don't have speed, it's kind of harder for them to run that route, because it's longer for it to develop. Watch how they track the ball and kind of the mechanics and how they run and how they catch and hand-eye coordination. And then you have them run a simple in route. So they run forward and then they cut towards the middle of the field and, you throw them a pass, you lead it to them. Can they catch and run? And then once they catch, can they go upfield? And these are all things that you kind of coach to them and kind of, emphasize to them before they do it. And then you see if they can. And then after that, we do, and then they flip. So then they go to defense, and then defensive players or people that were with Coach Prokop doing defense would then come back to me. So it's a different group, and you do the same thing. And you kind of take some mental notes, and then having another coach there too, another set of eyes, really helps. And then in terms of, arm talent and kind of evaluating that, what you would do is you could do certain competitive games where you have, 2 long lines with everybody like 10 yards apart. And it's who can throw. So each line, they throw to the person next to them, they catch it, they turn around, they throw it. And it's all kind of going down one line and then back. And then 2 lines, so it's competitive, which line is going to win. And that gets fun. And then that's a way for you to, evaluate arm talent as well as hand-eye coordination and catching, and being able to kind of, see some kind of competitiveness out of that. So once you kind of have your idea of what you kind of envision your offense is going to look like in terms of which positions are these kids more inclined to play at, at a higher level, then you kind of get into the nuts and bolts of kind of figuring out your offense. And so mind you, I'm on my phone because I haven't had a laptop that's worked in a while. And I wanted to make sure that I could do this. So let's see, let me go to Nope. Okay, here we go. So, this is called. Can everyone? Actually, you can't see my screen yet. I have to share screen. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Screen recording. Can everyone see my screen currently?
I see Joe Cool.
Okay. So can you see myfootballplays.com?
Nope.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. Let me go to more. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to type in the URL. I think I can do that. myfootballplays.com. Actually, you know what? So the laptop that I have, it doesn't work in terms of the webcam on it. So I'm just going to do this, actually. I'm going to do the front-facing camera. I think I can do that. Okay, here we go. Can you see my computer? Everyone? Okay, so if you see up here, myfootballplays.com, and then you go to Play Designer, okay? And this is a website that I used, and you can move whichever, this would be your quarterback. So if you're doing in the single back formation where they get the handoff directly under center, or in a little pistol or a shotgun, you can kind of adjust it like that. You go up here, your red receiver is, and as a coach, you can go ahead and kind of do it.
Oh.
Okay, everyone's working now? Okay.
There we go.
So 3, and then you can do a running back. Because you manually kind of move everything where you and to different line types. So if you kind of want something where it's like a wheel route, you can do it like you can do that as well. So I'd hit line type, and then I would click right next to it, and then you see it kind of a different type of thing like there, right? So if you want to do something like that, obviously that's not a route that I would run personally, but you can run something similar like this, where they come here and then like a little curl like that. And then you could do the same thing for your center, but you want your center perhaps to run an out route. And we'll kind of, I'm doing it with one hand while I'm holding my phone, viewing this screen. So it's not kind of the cleanest thing in the world, but it's that essential motion right there. And then you could run a deep post. Actually, that doesn't look good at all. And then you get the idea right there. And then something kind of in the middle of the field. So what I like to do, my kind of philosophy is that it's easier and mind you, I truly believe that your quarterback should be an athlete, because that optimizes your best chance at having a successful dynamic offense. Because if your quarterback is a partner, he can only throw to athletes, whereas your athlete can throw to partners and can throw to everybody on the field. So if you have, this play right here, for instance, it gives you a short kind of a short target to throw to right here, which is where your center would wind up being after the ball is snapped, a short one right in front of you, something in the middle of the field that's kind of an intermediate distance, and then a deep distance in the middle of the field. Now that's focused towards the middle of the field, okay? Now, what I then do, this isn't a play that we've ran, this is just kind of to show you the mechanics and how the website works. But once you get something that you like, you can screenshot it, and then you can use Quizlet, okay? And so Quizlet, you have to when I found this out, you have to do like the premium version, but I just did a trial where you can upload images as well as onto your flashcards. So right here you have it, and then you send this Quizlet out to your team, and then they can take the Quizlet. So for instance, like one of the often missed questions, and it wasn't missed like that often, I guess, but more so than others, is you have this play right here. So it's a pass play, deep distance. So you have the outside blue runs a deep route, a deep go route. The slot receiver in green runs a deep post route. The center yellow is a medium out route. And then the running back runs like a red, the red practice that they go through progressions. So if the quarterback has the arm talent, obviously, if you see single man coverage with no safety over the top, because typically you don't, but sometimes teams do, because with the quarterback, that kind of, if it's 5-on-5, whoever's guarding the quarterback, that can be treated as a safety, or it can be treated as a rusher, kind of however the defense is, playing against you. But you have your first read right here, that deep route, that deep go route, deep over the middle of the field, you have there, and then you have your check down. So once you kind of have that, you can then put it on here. This is actually pretty funny. I always joked with my team, so I did this on the last question of Quizlet. Why do we almost always go for 2? Because we can't go for 3. So that's just, a little thing that we do there. But you can see right here, so what's Tango? Tango is this. It's a play action pass, deep, medium distance. And then you kind of go through what you would do in practice. On set, the right receiver comes in motion. On hike, that outside red receiver fakes a handoff. Then in the slot, and this is all simultaneously. I mean, you're not going to get every detail on here, but it's something for them to kind of go over and review. And then in practice, you can really work on doing it with great timing. And then they'll run this a deep middle route, and then you can kind of fake the handoff, and it's a pass. Now, those are a couple passing plays. What I found very helpful is running the ball. And so we have some sweep plays. So Turbo is one of our sweep plays. On set, the right outside receiver comes in motion. They receive a handoff, and then they rush. Now, notice how the idea is, and we talked about this in the rules session earlier, is that the blue and the yellow are running in routes. Okay, so they're running to the right side of the field, while the receiver in motion in red comes and receives the handoff. Okay, in a sweep. Now you can run your routes as far as you want until the ball passes the line of scrimmage. Okay, once the ball passes the line of scrimmage, you can only take 2 steps if you're not the ball carrier. So what this allows us to do is it allows the red receiver to come in on the handoff for the sweep, and then be on the left side of the field, passing the line of scrimmage, hopefully in isolation, with only 1 or 2 guys to beat. And so that's one thing that we like to do, and that's Turbo. Now, one of the other plays, and I'll find it right here, is Turbo again. And we do this because we call these plays out for our players to run. So Turbo is just that sweep. Turbo again is a reverse. Okay, so when you're coaching your kids in a game, and you're yelling out Turbo, Turbo, and then they run Turbo, and then after that you say Turbo again, it's kind of code. The defense may be thinking, okay, they're going to just run the same play again, but it's actually a reverse, and it goes to the other direction. So on the flashcard, Turbo again, and you see it. So it's the same pattern, except then the blue receiver comes in as well. And it's the same pattern in terms of the red receiver comes to, like, he's going to receive the handoff. The quarterback, all he has to do is he catches it, puts the ball out in front of him. The red receiver doesn't take it. The blue receiver on his left comes and he takes it, and he cuts up field on the right side. And green is going deep middle, or towards the left. And then this time the center is running an out route. So it kind of gives you that same isolation on that side of the field with the ball carrier in space. And that's kind of the idea of it. And that's kind of in terms of code. I can go right here. I think I have it. I'll have to pull it up. But I'll kind of turn this around. So I have a play sheet that I like to use. I laminate it, and it helps in terms of me kind of just knowing what we have as our weapons. It's a weapons list. What plays that we can run and in certain situations. So I'll pull that up right now and I'll show it to you. I'll show you a template. It won't have all of our plays on there. I showed you a couple really go-to plays. I think those 2 plays, turbo again, I think should be staples that every team should be able to run, because I think that running the ball is incredibly effective. And so that would benefit anyone really. So I know I don't have a whole lot left on time, but I just want to show you this. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them. I'm going to turn my screen around. Okay, I'm going to zoom it out because it's at 100%. So you can just go on Google Sheets and you kind of design it like this. The formatting's a little funky right now. I haven't opened it. I mean, I did earlier this morning. But so at the top, it kind of just says, "We are Valpo." And you have I wish I could pinch it and kind of expand it outward. But you have run base in blue. And then you have, like, we had 3 running base plays that we would run kind of in any downer situation, any downer distance. And then your sweep and reverses, we have those. Play action plays, specials, and then make sure to identify run and pass. So when you're kind of the way it works for your brain. Same thing with 2-point conversion plays, which you can run or pass on. Passing base plays, no rush zone passing, and 1-point conversion plays. So kind of, which plays do you kind of go to in those situations, and having that on a laminated sheet really helps. And you just have your play name, the formation, and the action, kind of to remind you and to remind your players, and then you can call it out. Also lineups. So we are fortunate at Valparaiso to have we had 50 people play. And so getting people in as much as possible required us to do substitutions. And so kind of having those names written down here to make sure, and you can tally, because when you laminate it, you just go with a dry erase marker and you can tally okay, this guy's kind of really gotten the ball a lot, or we've put this person in quite a bit. And then you can make little marks throughout the game. And then on the bottom, just a reminder, BU. And then you have on the back, and this is just for my eyes, really, it's a drive outcome sheet. So in the beginning of the game, you go down, you score, that's good. But it just kind of helps reflect for you kind of how the game is on. So drive outcome, and then, you just have big things right here, 1, 2, and that's on the back of your play sheet. And that's really helped as well. So that's kind of, in terms of offense, my philosophy is that, everybody should be able to run reverses. Everybody should be able to kind of do that. Timing is going to be the big thing in practice for all of your players. And then having a play sheet to help you coach is to, be a more effective play caller, I think really makes the difference, because there's so much going on during the game that you're paying attention to. Kids are, getting hurt, or hopefully not, but kids are, complaining that they're tired and they want to get out the game. You're making substitutions. You're trying to understand what the other team's doing. You're trying to kind of understand, the pace of the game. And with everything, having that sheet is very, very, very helpful. And laminating it is just as important to do, so you can make marks on it throughout the game. And it can help you, it kind of improves your self-reflective proclivity, or your proclivity to be self-reflective. And it makes you a better offensive play caller, and it puts your kids in position to do well. So that's kind of what I have on there. Mike Branham, if you kind of want to talk about defense, I would really appreciate that. And then we can kind of get into the chat stuff if anybody has any questions as well.
All right, just to piggyback on that, I use the same program for my offenses, but everybody on my offense has a wristband, and I use the color coding. And when they get out on the field, as they go out on the field, everybody's got a color. That way, my athletes, we can give them a play. They know to look at their color to see what their route is for that play. As far as defense goes, My philosophy, one of my assistant coaches summed it up best by saying coaching offense or defense is kind of like you have a Jeep and you have an unlimited amount of money, and you can do whatever you want to that Jeep to make it your Jeep. But you have 7 tools to work with. They may be great tools. They may be a crescent wrench. And you have to fit your defense into that. You can get all sorts of creative. 2018, when we won the state championship, I had a defense that we ran 3 guys man-to-man, a constant rush on the quarterback, and we had a spy. And it worked great. We had guys, we could trade off guys in the middle of routes. It was wonderful. Last year, it was strictly man-to-man because we didn't have the talent. I mean, I graduated half my team that first year. Last year, I had 2 guys who actually played in the state championship on the team. And so though we had to scale down our defense to where we couldn't be as fancy. We may change the rusher on the quarterback, but the way we figure out our defense is the first couple practices we just go through drills. The most important facet, in my opinion, of defense is being able to pull a flag. I find it humorous every year how many kids I have coming out for flag football who says, well, all you got to do is pull a flag. And then a couple practices into the season, they look at me and say, I'd rather tackle. And yes, to grab a 1-inch piece of vinyl as someone runs past you at full speed is difficult. So we do a lot of tackling drills. We do a lot of, we play shark and minnows almost every practice for the first month. And so the kids get used to pulling the flag. We do a lot of King of the Field. As long as you can pull flags, you stay in, which helps our runners and it helps our defense. I mean, when we start season, we have 1 month before our first game. So, I mean, I'm not going to be able to teach a whole lot of reading the offense in that first month. It's a lot of what can you do? And so the defense, we have some great defensive plays, never got to the field last year. I even tried giving my defense wristbands so they could see what they were supposed to do. And unfortunately, last year, that was not successful. And so it's a lot of tackling, a lot of reading. We do, once we get into the season, we do a lot of drop drills. So we can teach our defense to keep an eye on the receiver. We do a lot of guarding the sidelines. And a lot of, we will get into, as we progress through the season, we get into more multiple player tackling drills to where one person, their only job is to make the runner cut back in field so that the other player can pull the flag. Defense is a lot about the discipline of tackling, of following their ball. And some kids I have found are really good at that. If you watch our games from the state finals and from 2018, our kids were all over the ball. Last year, we did all right, but it was not the same defense. And so it is really just the consistency of practicing the fundamentals over and over and over again. And one of the biggest things for me is teaching kids not to take it easy on someone. Generally by the second or third practice, I am heard yelling at someone if you don't pull the flag just because they are a cute little kid, we're all running. It doesn't matter who they are, pull the flag. Because nothing's gained by letting that runner get past you. Your job is to tackle. And if you're not tackling people, you're not on the field. And to hold everybody to that standard. Because like I said in the other sessions, I refer to everybody as an athlete. I expect the same thing out of everybody. When we run hills, everybody runs hills. When we do drop drill, everybody does drop drill because everybody can get better. My best center for the last 2 years was an athlete. And we taught him how to be a center. He finally scored a touchdown last year at sectionals on offense. My best rushers, the first year I had an athlete who was about 6'3", 6'4", and he had speed. And we told him, your only job is to get to the quarterback. And we spent, after probably our second or third game, we spent a lot of time scrimmaging. And my philosophy with the team, and I tell them, is I want our toughest game to be at practice. We have, the last 2 years, we've had about 24 kids out on the team. So we've had 2 full teams. And so we run full squad. We were lucky enough to be able to run full squad scrimmages and seeing how everybody does. Although when we do it, we divide it up offense and defense. The offense is always on offense. Defense is always on defense. And we do a lot of our practices, especially starting mid-September. A lot of our practices are full go. We're going live, we're practicing, because then I can see what my defense can do. We started off with, last year we started off with some defenses where we're switching up, we're lining up the same way, but we're covering different people. And I figured out that some of my defensive lineups could not do that. So it goes back to, all right, I got a socket set, but I only have 3 sockets on it. I can't have a spy. If you have someone who can read the ball, I suggest a spy defense. It works because then you can double team wherever the ball is going. But that's just kind of my philosophy on defense. And the drills, like I said, they're all tackling drills, tackling and agility. We do following drills where they have to follow, and their goal is to knock the ball down. Most of the time, last year, my defense were not good receivers. I had a couple of kids who could intercept the ball. The rest of them, their job was to defense is we score, they don't. And if you can do that successfully, you win a game. And so my defense, their job is to go out and do that. One thing that we have found successful to help motivate our kids, both our athletes and our partners, is that we have a safety vest. And if a kid gets an interception, the first year was a cowboy hat. Last year we finally got it. We got a safety vest that's going to stay with the team. If you get an interception on defense, you get to wear the safety vest until you go back out on the field. And they get to sign it. Every time they get a safety vest, they get to sign it. Which I have found is motivation for the kids to go out and make plays on defense. Because the biggest thing is the motivation for some of those kids. Some kids, I mean, play great games just because they wanted to wear the vest for 3 minutes on the sidelines. But that's kind of my philosophy on defense is, I mean, wristbands work if you can do more complicated plays. Otherwise, it's, you know, you go out on the field and they talk. I've got number 23. I've got number 54. That's your guy. And pretty much, I mean, last year it kind of stayed that way for most of the game. When we subbed in, they would come in, you know, kind of like with basketball. You come in and, all right, you got 23. But it really depends on your personnel. So I guess at this time, do we have any questions or other input? Mike, you're muted.
Yeah, any questions for offense or defense or input or anything? Kind of one thing I'd like to say, though, definitely wristbands for offense is something that we looked into. We did not ultimately do it, but it's because, you know, in the thick of the season, we just, you know, we ended up kind of going with what we were doing. But that's something that we probably will implement because it does make it easier to kind of remember. Having a coach on an offensive coach and a defensive coach is perfect because when the defense is on the field, the offense can kind of huddle around me, and then I have the playbook. So all those plays that I put on the Quizlet, I also have laminated on a binder. Lamination is key because then you can kind of mark on it and kind of show them like this is you, and you can kind of talk about it like that. But having a wristband for offense would only reinforce it, and that's something I highly recommend, as well as sharks and minnows. That is a staple of unified sports. We run it in track all the time. And any bocce, even if it's bocce, it doesn't matter because kids love the game. But in terms of for football, it has its own unique kind of benefits because it's like the idea of tagging someone is similar to grabbing a flag. And then B, you see the elusiveness of other kids. And so when you have those plays where you're trying to get kind of those kids in space, you know, you would want the most elusive kids to do that. And so it kind of helps grade and evaluate talent and skill as well.
Yep, and we play shark and minnows with the flags. You actually have to pull their flag.
Yeah.
Which can extend the game quite a bit. You get a lot of sharks. And one of the things that we do is that every Friday, for both track and flag football, Fridays are team building days. And so we play different games. But once we get into the season and we have our offense set, our offensive player set and our defensive player set, it's offense versus defense in the team building. That way we get a more cohesive bond for the offensive players because they're with each other all the time. A lot of times we'll buddy them up. If we're doing buddy drills, it's the same person every time. And a lot of times it'll be an upperclassman with an underclassman to help build that bond, because I think that bond and being able to communicate with one another is essential once you get on the field.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I know for us, we have a larger team, so we'll have, let's say 20 players that are, you know, dedicated to offense. And then we'll have essentially 4 lines, like in hockey, like you have your line shifts and you have 4 different lineups that you would put out there. So you have 4 different quarterbacks, so on and so forth. That bond is really important. And that's why the biggest thing for us right now at Valpo is scheduling games. We want to play anybody, anywhere, if we can, because getting them out there and going against another team and doing this is really the only way. It's the most effective way to get better. I do agree, though, that scrimmaging is definitely the thing you do most in practice. And the philosophy that, you know, Mike Branham just said is that the idea that it's like it's tougher than a game. Practice is your toughest thing, is so important in terms of culture. But yeah, the offense, they bond together, and everybody kind of learns, like, oh, this is what I'm good at. Like, I'm good at running like that. I'm good at snapping the ball and being a center and then running an out route and catching on the sideline. Or even if you don't have that, then what you do is you have your center snap the ball and then turn around and he's that little check down receiver. So you kind of learn your players and, KYP, and understand what they're good at, and putting them in those situations. But any questions or comments or any input?
It's not like we're the experts.
No, we're not. We're just the people that are, trying to foster and cultivate conversation with all of this.
Or maybe you were the only two willing to give away secrets.
That could be too.
Yeah. And honestly, I know David's probably going to be like, I'm going to tell David, I'm like, yeah, dude, like I told them like a couple of our plays and I showed them. But you know what? The way I see it is that if everybody knows, if everybody's on the same playing field when it comes to knowledge and scheme, then it's all about coaching and it's all about the players going out there and performing. You can tell the defense, hey, we're going to run a double reverse. Okay. You got to go and stop it still. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. We're going to run a sweep play. We're going to throw it deep down the field. They're still going to have to guard the receivers. They're still going to have to play the ball in the air. They're still going to have to rush the quarterback. So if everybody is out here doing, all the same things, or everybody's innovating and everybody's kind of doing things differently and sharing that with the rest of the flag football community, then you're going to see the best teams win, and that's best for competition. So I'm completely fine with sharing secrets. And if anybody wants to shoot me an email, it's my last name, first name, shamiamike@gmail. That's my personal email, and I'll send you, the template for the play calling sheet that I use, and then on the separate side, the drive outcome sheet, and you print them both off. You put them kind of back to back. You laminate it, and then you go like heck. And we'd love to see it.
I was just kind of giving you guys a hard time, but I would echo what you just said. As athletic director at Carmel High School, I got to work with some Hall of Fame football coaches, and every one of them would share everything they knew with anybody that wanted to learn it. And I think the good coaches do that even in cutthroat football, much less in unified flag football. So I really appreciate you guys doing that.
And we're playing for a state championship too. IHSAA.
Oh, I know.
That's the beauty of all this.
It is.
And as far as games, I mean, we're really excited because we added 2 more games. So we're up to 7 regular season games this year. But I encourage anybody, get as many games as you can. When we started, with flag football, it was who's around here. We don't have to drive that far to play because there's not a lot of teams in Southern Indiana. But like with unified track, and now that for football, now that we've had a couple of playoffs, when we started our track program, and the AD came to me and said, who do you want on your schedule? I went back to the previous state championships and I wrote down the teams that were at the state finals in track, and I handed him that list and I said, I want as many of these as I can go up against. Because if I want to win state, we got to play people who can make it to state. And I encourage everybody, reach out to schools in your region that, made it to regionals, or who have made it to state, and try to get them on your schedule. Pick the toughest teams, because if you want to be a champion, you got to play, you got to beat everybody.
And not only that, but reaching out, and I think that's exactly what we did. Is we looked and we watched film on you guys when you guys won state. We watched your regional game. I think we even watched your sectional and your state championship game, because we hadn't had a team yet. Our first year was the year after you guys won state. And I remember in the summertime, literally this time of year, David and I, we went to the school, went in our conference room where we hold IEP meetings, pulled up our laptops, pulled out the notebooks, and we watched film. And we said, okay, this is what they're doing. This is what the best do. We got to go out there and we got to find ways to beat it, or do those same things, but just better. And I think that you know, this being an advanced session, quote unquote, I think it's the idea of how do you innovate what's already being done? Like what's the meta right now? Like what is everybody doing? Everybody's, if everybody's doing these reverses, or if everybody's kind of just, chucking the ball downfield. And when I say everybody that you play, everybody in your sectional, like what is everybody doing? Finding ways, okay, we know what they do. How do we stop it? How do we innovate to, improve it and add new wrinkles that other people aren't doing so they don't know how to guard it? And you do that by looking up, and it's all there. It's all free information. It's all easy to find too. You just go on the IHSA website and then hit unified, and then boom, you can see the, sectionals, who played who, what the score was. Heck, I wish we had box scores so I can see which player, you know what I mean? The more information you can soak in, the better. And I think that's part of being an advanced kind of, to go on from graduating your kind of knowledge in terms of how do we run a team, how do we do the stuff, to, okay, how do we innovate? And I think that's really important. And you can ask us anything, and we'll share everything we know.
Most definitely. To the coaches that are still in the room, reach out to other coaches. And a lot of it, I mean, I wanted to see it get to the point that you're innovating, but I mean, a lot of winning comes down to your mental attitude. And I mean, one of the things that we stress at BNL is that our unified players, they're champions. They show sportsmanship, and they're champions not only on the field, but they're champions at home. They're champions in the classroom. They're champions in the hallway. You model, you can win games without being a champion, but you become a champion by being a champion.
And I agree 100% with that. What it ultimately comes down to, and this is what we tell our Valpo kids every day, is winning is a byproduct of doing the right thing. Do the right thing. Being a good sport, exuding good sportsmanship, being a good teammate, having a positive attitude, positive talk, praising people and uplifting them, opponents as well as your teammates. Doing those things will enable you to win more games. If you focus on the winning, you're not going to win. You're going to put it on a pedestal, and you're going to, put all this pressure on it, and it's not going to improve your results. But if you focus on doing the right thing, the winning will come as a byproduct of that. And that's incredibly important as us coaches to model in practice, and, when no one's watching, and as well as modeling it in games and during games, and talks before the game, talks after the game. And that's really when they all kind of buy in. It's once it's emphasized and the culture is established that that's just what we do here. We shake hands after the game. With COVID, it's going to be a little different, I'm sure. Maybe bowing is going to be a thing. I'm cool with it. I mean, like, if people are bowing after the game, whatever, but whatever shows good sportsmanship, whatever doing the right thing is during this time and this climate, I think is important for us coaches to emphasize and really model.
Yeah, I tell my kids before every game, I want to go out there, I want to beat them, but I want them to thank us when we're done. And last year, I got an email last year saying that there'd been, after one of our games, that there was a report filed to the IHSAA. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did we do? And I pulled it up, and it was sportsmanship, that they were impressed with the sportsmanship, because my kids, you tackle them, you hand them the flag back. You tell them good job. And, my attitude is that it's hard to hate someone who's a good sport. You may not like them because they beat you, but you can't hate them. And that's what this sport's about.
I'm a huge Bears fan, but I know a lot of people in the state are Colts fans. But Andrew Luck, dude, when he gets sacked and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, good hit." Like that's one of the coolest things, And Sean, I saw what you put in the chat there. That's awesome. We win fair, we lose fair. It's what it's all about, man. Getting these kids out here and just compete, but doing it the right way. But you're competing every day in practice, And, like Coach B said, Mike Branham he just said, your toughest game is practice. You establish that culture and you really kind of do everything you can, you do the right thing, you're going to see a lot of success. But this coaches association, I'm hoping, really builds a community with all coaches to kind of reach out to everybody and foster that. And we'll see so many more games played throughout the season, and it's going to really grow the sport. So thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us. And I hope that, you reach out to us and ask us these questions, and we'll